Perhaps one of the most prolific companies during the PlayStation's lifespan, Psygnosis would sadly find their fortunes diminished by the following generation. The main company would be rebranded Sony Liverpool and, despite revisiting Wipeout a few times, were mostly consigned to Formula 1 games until their closure in 2012. Nevertheless, this seems a glowing fate to that of Studio Camden's, who were allotted a sole PlayStation 2 release before being merged into Team Soho. That game would be Dropship United Peace Force, which saw the developer channeling some of their flight combat experience with Blast Radius, albeit on Earth and with a semi-futuristic spin. In fact, this game feels like something of a holdover from flight combat games of the past gen, for both better and for worse. On the positive side of things, Dropship feels rather good to play. Controls utilise the entirety of the DualShock, with the shoulder buttons allowing you to adjust altitude and direction, while the face buttons are used for starting the engine, weapon fire, and braking. It can take some getting used to, especially when you factor in swapping between hovering and flight, but it feels natural after some play. There's quite the contrast between the slower transport vehicles and more speedier combat fighters, but both feel great to control. Landing, by default, switches to a cinematic angle and is automated, though you can disable it for more control. You also get access to ground vehicles, including tanks and armoured assault vehicles, and these handle well for the most part, though the physics can feel light when colliding into other vehicles and objects. It gifts both variety and a sense of scale to the conflicts, as you sometimes swap vehicle type between mid-mission.
Put your foot down. She's gonna blow.
With 20 missions divided into 4 campaigns, it's an experience with both highs and lows. Each is pretty bite-sized, with most barely breaking the 10-minute mark, and quite a few falling below that. It's quite slow going initially, with the first campaign seeing more recon than action. As you progress, things build to an exciting blast, with a chase seeing you defend a vehicle with a turret proving explosive fun. Another highlight sees you fending off waves of fighter jets from attacking an allied naval fleet, as you frantically stop them from bombing. However, quite a few missions suffer from some nasty difficulty spikes, which can grow grating. Enemies can be both precise and aggressive, which makes multiple defense missions tough as is, but some also throw in SAM launchers that open fire on you sharpish. The peak of irritation comes from the final campaign, featuring a quintet of brutally difficult missions that border on cheap, particularly the final 2, which bombard you with so many foes and strict time limits. Dying sees you thrown back to the start of a mission, and while they are generally shorter, it's still quite tedious. It doesn't help that Dropship has a slight air of blandness. The story is completely throwaway, with only the Starship Trooper-esque recruitment clips offering anything of interest.
It doesn't matter where you're from. If you're good enough, we need you.
Don't see how you got in then.
Characters are forgettable, cutscenes are too short to linger in the memory, and the bland quasi-future war thread lacks bite. The presentation is largely underwhelming, though, oddly, also impressive in one respect. Studio Camden would target 60 frames per second performance, and the game never dips below this, lending everything an appreciable smoothness. Sadly, this would come at the cost of the visuals. Large environments are muddy and bland, a collection of drab browns and mouldy greens. Vehicles and character models look lackluster, animations from enemy soldiers border on comical, and not even explosive environmental damage can add visual excitement. The sound is mixed, with weak voice work that fails to lift a generic script, and can chatter during missions, which grows irritating. On the flip side, explosions and weapons pack a punch, while the music does a suitable job of building tension, heightening drama and suiting the military tone.
Neutralized.
Those fighters are causing too much damage. They must be destroyed.
Those with patience and skill could likely polish off the campaigns in around 7 hours, though post-mission rankings encourage replays as you strive for better times, less collateral damage, and more kills. There's a trio of challenge missions locked behind codes, allowing you to choose your vehicle and fight waves of foes or race around a track, which proves a novel, if short-lived, distraction. It's not the longest lifespan, though those of a normal skill level will likely take longer due to those aforementioned difficulty spikes. Dropship United Peace Force is a mixed experience, but one that certain players should find enjoyment in. The core gameplay is rather good, some missions offer pure excitement, and those looking for a challenge will revel in some brutally hard missions. On the flip side, those same difficulty spikes can cause frustration, and a bland story and underwhelming presentation hardly motivate to keep at it. But for those interested in a steep challenge and with a keen interest in flight combat games, particularly those from Psygnosis' past on PS1, it might be worth checking out.